be here for about 5 minutes.
Let us pray. O Lord, grant us a daily awareness of the precious gift of life which you have given us. As members of this legislative assembly, we dedicate our lives anew to the service of our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
Yes, member for...
Mr. Speaker, I rise to present a petition signed by 1,393 Albertans who are asking for this government to make a long-range commitment to accountable and effective adult English as a second language.
Edmonton Kingsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today also to present a petition to the Assembly signed by 1,390 Albertans who urge the government to make a long-range commitment to accountable and effective English as a second language program.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
The member for Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give notice under Standing Order 15 that at the end of question period today I would like to raise a question of a matter of breach of privilege related to the conduct of the acting chairman of committee in supply last evening, the substance of which I've requested be directed to you prior to this afternoon's question period and in conforming with the standing orders.
Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
To table the 1989-90 annual report of the Department of Municipal Affairs.
Additional, Minister of Career Development and Employment.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to table the annual report of the Department of Career Development and Employment for the 1989-1990 fiscal year.
Introduction of special guests.
Honorable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce a group of students from the Big Valley School in the constituency of Stettler. There's some 31 students in this group, Mr. Speaker. I've had a chance to talk to them. They are accompanied by their teachers, Shelley Paulson and Tara McKnight, and parents Alina Waugh, Wanda Wilkie, Peggy Campbell, Wendy Trout, Sally Walker, and Val Erickson. I would ask them please to stand and be recognized by the Assembly.
Edmonton Glengarry, followed by by Calgary McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my honor and privilege to introduce 47 students from Scott Robertson Elementary School. They're accompanied by their teachers, James Riddell and Jean Romaniuk, and I would ask that they stand and that the members of this assembly give them a hearty welcome.
Calgary McCall.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce 3 members of the Alberta Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission Board who have been meeting and discussing important substance issues this morning on behalf of all Albertans. They are Saran Alawalia from Cold Lake, Joe Lipka from Sherwood Park, and Alan Dietz from Galahad. I would ask that they rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Goldbar, called by Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm honored today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly a group of 25 members of the 50-plus fellowship from beautiful Gold Bar. They're seated in the public gallery, Mr. Speaker. They're accompanied by their leader, Mrs. Jean Schmidt, and I'd ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the legislature today 11 representatives of the Association of Alberta Teachers of English as a Second Language. Members of the group include David Wood, the president of the association, Veronica Baig, the chairperson of the Edmonton Local, and Laura Hole, a past president of the association. They are here in support of the petition that was presented earlier. I would ask that all members of the group here today rise in the gallery and receive the welcome of the members of the Legislative Assembly.
Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to the members of the Assembly 15 members of the 50-plus Kirk United Church congregation. They are in the public gallery. I request that they stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Hooray for those of us who are 50-plus.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. Mr. Speaker, over the last 5 years, Albertans have watched this government's loans and loan guarantees to private businesses blow up in their face time and time again. Classic example of corporate welfare, Mr. Speaker. Gainers, GSR, Northern Steel, Ski Free Marine, Technica, the list goes on and on and on. And this has cost the taxpayers of Alberta millions and millions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, we have done some calculating, and what we have found is a shocking indictment of this government's incompetence and bungling. According to information in 1989-90 public accounts and the 1991 budget documents, 30 out of 66 companies that have received $100,000 or more have either failed or had been taken over by the government. Mr. Speaker, that's a shocking rate of 46%, Mr. Speaker. My question to the minister is this. I wonder if the minister can leave aside loans to students and farmers and concentrate on this issue. How can he explain the shocking failure rate, the worst record of any government in North America?
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to address the matter of the record. One only has to look at the record of this province as it relates to economic growth and our involvement in that economic growth, and we will find, notwithstanding the lightness with which the leader of the opposition makes of it, he will find that this province is leading economic growth in all of Canada. And that is because of the diversification policies of this government, the leadership of our Premier, and our involvement in the economy when it was flat on our back. We're delighted that we can can participate by helping. And he wants us to avoid mention of the farmers, some 30,000 farmers in the Farm Credit Stability Program, or some 20,000 small businessmen in our interest shielding program. Mr. Speaker, it's important that we take all these things in their proper context and not just pull out the failures, because we acknowledge the failures, but we acknowledge that the failure rate is less than 5% in an overall average of our involvement in the economy.
Mr. Speaker, that's just not the case, Mr. Speaker. The failure rate is 46%, and hundreds of millions of dollars have been lost, Mr. Speaker. That's the reality. No matter how the government wants. But, Mr. Speaker, let's go on even further. If we broaden that list to include the further 9 companies with outstanding government assistance that are in trouble, and I mentioned one of them yesterday, where taxpayers are at least liable to lose some money, Mr. Speaker, companies like the Magnesium Company of Canada, Centennial Food Corporation, XL Foods, blah, blah, blah. That failure rate would then go up to 60%, Mr. Speaker, 60%. Some record, Mr. Speaker. My question to the minister is simply this. What does the minister have to say to Albertans about this record? A likely failure rate that may set a world record for incompetence and bungling.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the Leader of the Opposition's selective use of figures. It is important, and that's why we are so active in indicating to Albertans where our total involvement is. The provincial treasurer, when he released the budgetary papers just the other day, indicated that we have $3.5 billion worth of loan guarantees and support to individual Albertans. The honourable member suggests we not involve ourselves. He should talk to some of his union representatives that indicate just the opposite to me when we discuss our involvement in Northern Steel, whereby the union is suggesting that we should continue our involvement because it creates hundreds of jobs for Albertans, and we've got concern as it relates to the job creation aspect because we've got an obligation to all Albertans.
Mr. Speaker, he looks very nervous over there.
You got that
because, you know, with these 9 further companies, if you look at the amount of money, that's another $800 million of taxpayers at risk, Mr. Speaker, to these other 9 shaky companies. Mr. Speaker, and the minister, to come to the question, says that they have the best record. Well, again, he must fight with Van der Zalm. He says they have the best job creation record of any province in Canada, the best fiscal record in Canada. It's a fight between you and Bill Van der Zalm, Mr. Speaker. But my question to the minister is this. That's a lot of money, millions and millions and millions of dollars. How can this minister justify this type of waste and corporate welfare when this government has run up over $11 billion in debt?
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated, but it's obvious the Leader of the Opposition does not wish to pay any attention except to his own misuse and distortion of the facts. I've indicated to him our involvement was to create employment for those individual Albertans within the province of Alberta so that they would have meaningful jobs within our great province. That's exactly what has happened over the last number of years. If we examine the number of jobs that have been created since 1985, it's in the thousands, whereby we have made sure that individual Albertans could have meaningful work. And I say to the honourable member, and I say it with some lightness, I wish he would quit picking on us Dutch people.
I just indicate to the minister, though, that losing taxpayers' money does not create jobs. That's the reality, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
But I want to move and designate my second question, Mr. Speaker, to the member from Edmonton Highlands.
You guys are so easy to please. Mr. Speaker, it's amply clear that this government is never short of money when it comes to bailing out its corporate friends in the new version of corporate welfareism in Alberta. But, Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister for Advanced Education announced sweeping, huge, massive increases for basic tuition for universities and colleges and to allow other fees to skyrocket pretty well unabated. In fact, Mr. Speaker, basic tuition will double to come to 20% of the total cost of higher education. And I'd like to ask the Minister for Advanced Education why he has now joined his caucus colleagues in making the people who are least able to pay vulnerable to and burdened by this government's feeble attempt to balance this year's budget.
Mr. Speaker, it's difficult to believe we went through my estimates just last evening, but for the benefit of the honourable member, our policy, Mr. Speaker, is any Albertan who has the ability and who's desirous of attending the post-secondary system, money will not be a prohibitive factor. That's why we have the Student Finance Board. And Mr. Speaker, I would point out to the honourable member and to others, tuition fees in Alberta are the lowest in the nation next to Quebec. And we have based our whole tuition fee policy on a couple of very important principles. One is students should participate financially in their own education, their own betterment. And secondly, and equally important, Mr. Speaker, those tuition fee increases must be predictable, and that's what the policy is all about.
Well, Mr. Speaker, by the time this program is fully in place, the tuition fees will be the highest in Canada. Is he telling the rest of Canadians that theirs should come up, Mr. Speaker?
You didn't read
Listen, I think that this is a classic example of why Albertans say we can't afford a conservative government anymore.
The Premier didn't even know there was cuts for the seniors.
That's right. That's right. Can the minister not see? Can the minister not see that these tuition increases cannot be absorbed by most students, that in fact only the well-to-do can really afford to absorb these massive increases?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member misses the point. With tuition fees being as low as they are, the very opposite is happening, and those who are well off, frankly, are getting such a bargain. I point out to the honourable member, as I did last evening, Ontario is considering raising tuition fees 40%. This government refuses to do that. This government has said, Mr. Speaker, this government has said and put into policy tuition fees for university students in Alberta cannot go up more than $25 a month based on an 8-month year, or half of that in the college system. I submit, Mr. Speaker, that still remains the greatest bargain in Canadian post-secondary education.
Well, Mr. Speaker, maybe we should try some other arithmetic on the minister. The fact of the matter is that the University of Alberta, for one example, will have their tuition fees increased by 13.5% starting September, compared to an increase in funding for operating by the government of 3.5%. My question to this minister is this: how on earth can this be fair or justified when the current budget doesn't ask for a similar increase in, say, corporate taxation, which never foots its fair share of the bill?
Mr. Speaker, quality and access remain our priorities with the post-secondary system of education. I would remind the honourable member, as much as the honourable member does not want to hear it, that the contribution by the taxpayers of Alberta to the post-secondary system have been and will continue to be amongst the leaders in Canada on a per capita basis. Now, Mr. Speaker, I believe not only is that firm commitment, Mr. Speaker, not only is that firm commitment, it's followed with actual dollars. So the honourable member who purports to be representing students, I don't want to quarrel with the honourable member. We think we've worked out which is a fair deal for students of Alberta in the post-secondary system, and it's interesting to note the presidents of our institutions welcome the opportunity of having additional revenue in order to offer and maintain quality.
Edmonton Glengarry, Leader of the Liberal Party.
My questions are to the Honourable Premier, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, millions of dollars have been given by the government. That's not the right word. Millions of dollars have been pushed by the government at Japanese firms involved in the pulp and paper industry. They've been given to the Peter Pocklingtons and the Bill Mackays, and they've even found their way, taxpayers' monies, to a venture company in California. We have farmers in southeastern Alberta who are in serious financial straits. These farmers continue to meet, asking the government to assist them. My first question to the Premier is this: given that the Agricultural Development Corporation and the Treasury branches have been big lenders in this area, southeastern Alberta. And given that they have pressed foreclosures extremely vociferously, zealously in this area, I wonder if the Premier would agree to direct these two government agencies to ease up, to suspend and stop these foreclosures, to save rural Alberta and southeastern Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, one of the things I'll want to do is ask the Associate Minister of Agriculture to add to my remarks regarding the agricultural concerns in southern Alberta. But I think it's necessary to straighten out the honourable member on this giving of millions of dollars to people, because he is completely off base. Again, the government of Alberta has set out to totally diversify and restructure the economy of this province when this economy was flat on its back. And we knew the timid could never do that.
Timid is right.
But this government was determined to do it. We have made it happen. And when you look at the rest of North America, and you look at the rest of Canada, when they're all in a recession, and there is one province that is strong and growing with the people with jobs and working, then you know, Mr. Speaker, the government's program is working.
Exactly. Exactly. Good news. Good job. Good job.
Now, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member did make a specific reference to the Agricultural Development Corporation. I'd ask the honourable minister to refer to that.
Briefly, there's still two supplementaries.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to comment on the Ag Development Corporation, which has an exceptional record of dealing compassionately and fairly with farmers wherever they are in Alberta. But it was brought up specifically on the southeastern Alberta issue, Mr. Speaker, and I think I should comment on that, because this government has put in place a Southeast Disaster Program for areas of southern Alberta that have been stressed extremely by conditions beyond their control, such as drought. That program has had wide acceptance and is benefiting a great number of farmers in southeastern Alberta. I would also remind the members of the 6% Beginning Farmer program, which is assisting them, which is ended at 9% after 5 years. I would also remind the member of the Farm Credit Stability Program, which carries a great portion of the farm debt in this province, again subsidized, as you might call it, a loan guarantee to the farmers of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think that the Honourable Premier can fool Albertans into having them believe that the Premier and his government have been more generous in dealing with farmers than they have with offshore companies like the Japanese who are building pulp and paper mills in Alberta. There's no way. Mr. Speaker, these two government agencies have taken land from rural Albertans in southeastern Alberta, and they've now started to dump the land on the market for sale. The effect of this is to reduce the price of land in that area from what would be the normal market values of that land. Sure. And so when people go for assistance, for the drought assistance program benefits, they can't get it. My question to the Premier is this: will he direct these two government agencies to take these lands off the market, not to dump land, not to depress the value of land, so that he can really help farmers in southeastern Alberta? Will he do that?
Mr. Speaker, it's obvious from the honourable member's questions that he wouldn't know rural Alberta if he stumbled over it.
That's right. Never been there. Never been there.
He mentions the government is not helping the farmers of Alberta. A $2.5 billion farm credit stability program, 20-year money at 9% fixed interest rates, the lowest energy costs in North America, protected by some 50 cents a gallon after the increases mentioned by the Honorable Provincial Treasurer. 50 cents a gallon on purple fuel. That's a lot. 77 cents a gallon on diesel fuel. Wow. The Honorable Member does not know what he is talking about. Now, the Associate Minister of Agriculture mentioned that she has given orders to the companies that represent us, the Crown corporations, and that they deal with the farmers and ranchers of Alberta with compassion, and they are doing that.
Mr. Speaker, it's obvious that the Premier is embarrassed about the riches that he's giving to the Japanese companies when it's compared to the paltry sum that he's given to these farmers in southeastern Alberta. And he's embarrassed, and he should be. My last question to the Premier is this. Mr. Premier, would you agree that the farmers that have lost their land in southeastern Alberta should have the opportunity of being allowed to get back on that land? And would you agree to set up a program that will allow them to lease that land back, allow them to farm that land, allow them to have the option of purchasing that land back so that they can stay in rural Alberta and make it healthy and strong?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows full well that the Alberta Development Corporation has a leaseback program with farmers. Also knows very well that if they would listen to the answer, we would not get such foolish questions, and worse yet, put out bad information or incorrect and incomplete information to the farming public. In southeastern Alberta, as in all Alberta, there is a leaseback program, and that the Alberta Development Corporation loans officers are working with individuals through, one, the Southeast Disaster Program, which offers interest-free assistance commensurate on loss, as also working through the new revenue insurance program that we have committed to this year to assist in the grains and oilseed sector. And all of those things are taken into consideration. But the member should also remember that it is the individual's farmer's choice at times it is made. We have some 57,777 agricultural producers in this province, and we have a very low percentage of either quit claims or foreclosures in this province, the best record in Canada.
Red Deer North. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. As the Premier knows, Alberta has a constitutional task force that will be going around the province seeking the views of Albertans on Alberta's place in a new Canada. One of the questions on the minds of Albertans is what exactly is Quebec's position in a new Canada? And I'm wondering, I'd like to ask the Premier in his planned visit with Premier Bourassa, does he intend to be discussing just general constitutional items, or will he be asking the hard, tough questions that will give Albertans the information they need as they come and address us in our own forum here?
Good question. Mr. Speaker, there are some very key elements in trying to solve our constitutional and unity problems in Canada. And of course, I'm sure the number one element for the members of this legislature is the views of the people of Alberta. And the special select committee, which will be holding hearings, a select committee which we appreciate the fact that all parties are on, will be holding hearings this summer, and I think it will provide tremendous input to the government. But as well as knowing the Albertans' point of view, I was discussing this matter with thousands of Albertans on the weekend, as a matter of fact.
How did that happen?
And,
how did that happen? Where was this? Tell us where you were.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday I was able to discuss the matter with the Premier of Quebec, and I will be meeting with him on April the 22nd in Montreal to determine the position of the government of Quebec and make sure that we are familiar with Premier Barrassa's views on this matter.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Albertans are interested not only in the views of Quebec, but also all of Canada. And as there's been a change in government in Ontario since the last national sessional discussions on constitutional reform, I'd like to ask the Premier if he also intends to be talking with Mr. Ray, or is he only going to be focusing on the Quebec situation?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is correct that with the change of government in Ontario that I'm not as familiar with their views on the matter of national unity and future constitutional reform. I have talked to Premier Ray, and I must say that they are getting up to speed quickly. They have a report of a constitutional task force of their own, and I'm going to, after my meeting with Premier Barrassa on Monday, go to Toronto and meet with Premier Ray on the Tuesday. I have expressed to him some of Alberta's points of view, and I was impressed by one particular matter. He is quite receptive to Senate reform and even to at least the elected and effective features, and I hope we're able to convince them of the key equal feature of Senate reform. I think it's a pretty significant matter that the member from Glengarry shouldn't joke about. I think it's important that the government of Ontario is looking with favor on Senate reform, and it's, to me, a pretty significant matter that they are starting from that position.
Edmonton Mill Woods, followed by Edmonton Whitemount.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the chairman of the Alberta Multiculturalism Commission. In their recent report, the English as a Second Language Interdepartmental Committee said, and I quote here, "The Multiculturalism Commission serves as an advocate for English as a second language programs based on its recognition that the ability to speak and understand English is essential for individuals to become fully participating members of the Alberta society." Now, since it also said in that same report, Mr. Speaker, that there was a $9 million shortfall in meeting the needs of English as a second language for Albertans, I want to ask the chairman of the Alberta Multiculturalism Commission, since there's absolutely no improvement in the budget for ESL programs this year, will the chairman of the commission now admit that in his capacity as an advocate for ESL programs in this province, he and his commission have been a total failure?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I guess it's nice to see that the member has finally asked the question on multiculturalism in this province, and I can outline to him at the end of February when we announced our new MAP program, a program that takes into account 3 areas of awareness, access, and participation, and naturally the funding in this program has not been cut at all, and we can look in areas where we can actually maybe help in some way with English as a second language, but at the same time, he's got to realize that the federal government has cut all funding for this program. So Alberta has got to definitely look at other areas, and I think we need all Albertans' help, including school boards, Mr. Speaker, in this issue.
Well, given that abdication of leadership, let's try the Minister of Advanced Education. Given that many of the English as a second language programs are offered through the institutions of post-secondary education here in the province, and given that the Alberta Teachers of English as a Second Language in their last position paper here advised of the problems in providing professional ESL programs when their instructors have no job security, low pay, and few benefits, will the Minister of Advanced Education give some commitment today to improve the working conditions of these dedicated and hard-working professionals?
Mr. Speaker, I think it's probably very important to know that Alberta is one of the few provinces that has a net migration record of people coming into the province. Latest figures I have, Mr. Speaker, show a very significant contribution by the taxpayers of Alberta, some 15 million last year through my department alone, the Honorable Minister of Family and Social Services some 30 million, and my colleague from CD&E, whose estimates we presented this afternoon, there's some $12 million which is shared with Ottawa. Mr. Speaker, I don't question for a moment that we have some lineups at the Alberta vocational colleges, partly because, Mr. Speaker, of the success of that ESL program and the role of the volunteers in Alberta. I simply want to point out to the honourable members of the House, Mr. Speaker, I, as a minister, have found it extremely gratifying to see the satisfaction experienced by new Canadians who have arrived here and within 6 to 8 months have a new appreciation of this province as a result of our ESL program.
Edmonton Whiteman.
Mr. Speaker, obviously this government has learnt some tricks from their Ottawa other half before their recent divorce. Following the lead of the feds, this government is now attempting to promote itself as a good party using taxpayers' dollars, thousands upon thousands of taxpayers' dollars. The budget commercials and now tapes produced for the government and hosted by the minister responsible for public affairs, and who knows what other propaganda tools are coming. My question to the minister responsible for public affairs: can the minister tell this House how he can so blatantly use taxpayers' dollars to promote his own image and that of some of his colleagues?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure what the member from Edmonton Whitemud is referring to, but let me say that the complaints, the most recent complaints we have from both the Liberal caucus and the Democrat caucus seem to focus not on what the budget actually does. I mean, the budget provides more money for social services. It provides more money for hospitals and health care, provides more money for education, municipal services, shows a reduction in spending on government operations, balances the budget, and doesn't increase taxes except in the corporate area, and meets all of Albertans' expectations. Yet we hear complaints about us, the government, telling people about this, while the leader of the Liberal caucus spends most of his time saying we don't say enough.
We're talking about your leadership campaign.
Mr. Speaker, the minister has to be reminded that taxpayers find it unacceptable that their dollars be used for these type of purposes. They certainly do. Will the minister responsible for public affairs table with this House the overall plans and costs for all government departments, including his own, for this type of promotion?
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, we're more than glad to provide information on a whole range of government operations, but I'm still not sure what this member is driving at. I'm not sure what he's seen that he doesn't understand, or what he is looking for. But if he were to provide a detailed question that lays out what it is exactly he's looking for, we'll go and we'll send our very, very busy civil servants away from their regular duties and see if we can't put something together.
Perhaps the two members would like to go take a hike that would last about a month. The chair can only assume over the clamor coming out of your caucus colleagues, honourable member for Edmonton Whitemud, that perhaps you've come to the end of your definitive supplementary questions. And I'm quite certain that you also are quite well aware of how to submit motions for return, because I look at the list and I see that you've only been able to craft in the neighborhood of about 25 at the moment. Calgary Foothills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's kind of a tough act to follow, but I'll try. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister of Advanced Education did indeed announce a new tuition policy for the 90s. Mr. Speaker, I continue to get calls from my constituents whose children cannot get access into the University of Calgary.
And I'd like to know what this increase will do to provide accessibility for my constituents into U of C.
Good question.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said earlier, one of the victims of a very successful post-secondary system, of course, is the number of people who want to access it. Our policy, of course, number one priority is access for Albertans who want a post-secondary education. Yesterday's tuition fee policy, Mr. Speaker, if the full amount that's allowed to the institutions by way of tuition fees were taken up, there would be about another $17 million available to the post-secondary system. That would be in addition, of course, to the $29 million I announced on January the 5th.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I recently surveyed my constituents and I had a resounding response that foreign students...
Excuse me, honourable member. Westlock Sturgeon. I know we both come from the part of the province where a lot of hot air blows, but perhaps you could cork it for a while. Calgary Foothills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said, I recently surveyed my constituents and I had a resounding response that foreign students were not paying enough of the costs of their education. Does the...
Honourable member, please, I'm sorry. That's enough. It's enough. Calgary Foothills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a little difficult today, isn't it? My question, Mr.
Thank you, honourable member. Would you please leave the chamber? Would you please leave the chamber? Would you please leave the chamber? Thank you, honourable member. Don't aggravate it. Thank you, honourable member. Athabasca Lac-Pradesh. Thank you, honourable member. Disappear, please. Thank you. Calgary Foothills.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the minister, does he feel the increases to foreign students addresses the problems of foreign students paying their fair share of education at the universities?
Mr. Speaker, I would hope it would be clearly understood the advantages to Alberta students and to the province of Alberta to have visa students in Canada. We have about 4% of our post-secondary enrollment, which is not much different than the balance of Canada. Recognizing, Mr. Speaker, that with a $1 billion commitment by the government, which is the taxpayer, visa students, by definition, don't pay taxes in the country the way Albertans do. So we think, quite fairly, it's reasonable to have a differential fee for visa students, being about double, unlike Quebec, Mr. Speaker, which is about 500%. My view would be, with the adoption of the tuition fee policy dealing with visa students announced yesterday, I think, frankly, that for visa students paying that fee, it will not make a significant difference with regard to access to the system, but clearly it will point out that that people should pay their fair share of the post-secondary system, and that would include, naturally, the visa student.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, since this government rammed a bill through the legislature to legalize the sale of elk meat, the many problems caused by this industry have become obvious to Albertans everywhere. Everywhere except within the Conservative government.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, we've got cases of tuberculosis being transferred from game-ranched elk to cattle, and even more alarming, cases of tuberculosis being transferred from game-ranched elk to people, another 10 of whom have recently reacted positively to TB skin tests. And I'd like to ask the Minister of Health, acting out of her concern for the health of Albertans, if she will join with the New Democrats in our attempts to talk some sense into the Minister of Agriculture to recognize the serious problems posed by this industry and demand a moratorium on further development in elk ranching in the province pending a full public inquiry into this whole mess.
Right on.
Mr. Speaker, I can confirm there is one case of active TB in this province. One active case of TB, and there are 10 positive tests.
I'm surprised by the lack of concern, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to point out to the Minister of Health that local health units are responsible for monitoring the health of school children within their jurisdictions, and they have the authority to declare some areas high risk with respect to tuberculosis. Now, in order to assure Albertans, Mr. Speaker, that someone in this government is concerned and understands the serious risks that this TB outbreak poses, will the Minister of Health instruct health units to declare areas close to elk ranches as high risk and begin immediately a complete testing program of all school children within those areas?
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the opportunity to clarify the issue and to reassure Albertans with respect to the facts, rather than some of the statements that have just been made by the member for Bakerville. First of all, we have been on testing through our tuberculosis, which is part of the Department of Health, the tuberculosis testing area. 167 Albertans have been tested. We have determined that 10 of the skin tests were positive, no more, no less, but 10, and one case of active TB has been identified to date. And I want to reassure Albertans that certainly, and I confirmed today in my discussions with Dr. Fanning, that there is no reason for Albertans to be alarmed. Certainly we have been in touch with all of the game ranching people in the province. We have alerted them to the fact that one individual has been actually confirmed with the disease, and we have recommended to them that they contact with the health unit. They present themselves to the health unit for testing. We're certainly aware that the virus can be transported airborne, that there is an infection with the animals, but to suggest that it is wider than that is simply not borne out. Nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, I apologize, but I would like to get this information out for Albertans so that they know what the facts are. The 10 people who have tested positive are being watched very carefully because they've been exposed to the animals, but they are all well, and they have all had normal chest X-rays. The individual who has in fact with the disease and is receiving the appropriate drug therapy does not have a cough, is not carrying the virus on an airborne. So I think it's very important that from a health point of view, we assure Albertans that the alarm is not on. We counsel them to seek testing if they have been exposed to the disease, and certainly we will continue to test and provide those facts to Albertans. I reconfirm one case.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We're going on. Thank you. Edmonton Avonmore, followed by Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are to the Minister of Family and Social Services. Mr. Speaker, the Minister talks about being committed to dealing with the issue of violence in the family, but his budget shows only a $200,000 increase in funding, which is less than 10% of the increase requested by the Alberta Council on Women's Shelters to provide basic emergency services at shelters throughout the province. In addition, the so-called increase does not even match the higher cost due to inflation. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister is, how does the Minister reconcile his stated commitment with his failure to act?
Mr. Speaker, again, we're going to have the opportunity of going through my budget item by item so that we can discuss just what the increases will mean in the upcoming year. But let me again remind the member opposite about our government's commitment to put an end to family violence, that it isn't just within that one budget, Mr. Speaker, that it's within many departments, that we are currently have a committee of involving some 10 government departments that are working towards resolutions of family violence. We're working very closely with the City of Edmonton, the City of Calgary, who in turn have task forces, Mr. Speaker, that are looking for solutions towards family violence. The member opposite knows full well that the federal government is currently going through a similar process, and it's of interest to note, Mr. Speaker, that the federal government has turned to this province as a very key leader in terms of some of the initiatives that we've announced. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that it's a very complex problem. We recognize that it's a multidimensional problem that requires a multidimensional solution, and the solutions aren't going to be found in this budget alone. The solutions are going to be found in many departments and many budgets working together with other levels of government, with community agencies, because, Mr. Speaker, we all recognize that this is a problem that society can no longer tolerate, and we all recognize that it's going to take all of us working together to resolve.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we need action, not more studies, and shelters fall within the purview of this department and this minister, and that is what this question is about. Mr. Speaker, in the budget speech, the Treasurer announced that a third Edmonton shelter would be established this year. My question is to the Minister, where does he intend to get funds for this shelter? Is he planning to deny existing shelters their already inadequate funds so he can fund another shelter?
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, the hysterics of the member for Edmonton-Avonmore aren't going to build shelters. Mr. Speaker, we recognize, Mr. Speaker, I should also point out that is so often the case over there, her premise is wrong. Her premise is wrong. She started off by saying that my department alone is responsible for building these shelters. Wrong, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I'm working so closely with my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, in this government. And I'm working very closely with the Minister of Municipal Affairs, also responsible for housing, Mr. Speaker. And as was pointed out in the budget, in the budget, Mr. Speaker, there is a commitment to a new shelter here in the city of Edmonton in this year's budget, and there'll be more announcements coming, Mr. Speaker. But again, it's going to be departments working together, levels of government working together, and Albertans working together that are going to solve this problem, Mr. Speaker.
Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, all members present would agree that English as a second language training is an absolute must if immigrants are to participate fully in our society. In addition to the need for a public awareness campaign about the benefits of effective and comprehensive programs for all immigrants, especially women, and in addition to the need for more realistic funding from both federal and provincial governments, there is a need for coordination. At least 5 departments, advanced education, career development and employment, culture and multiculturalism, education, family and social services, provide bits and pieces of the policy and the service, but ministers responsible for women's issues, labor, and intergovernmental affairs are also involved. Because I don't know who is responsible in this province overall, I will ask my question to the Deputy Premier. Mr. Deputy Premier, what kind of coordination and liaison exists to assure adequate and effective English as a second language training and education in this province?
The Minister of Advanced Education indicated clearly to the members of the Assembly in an earlier answer that there are 3 departments of government which have specific responsibilities relative to English as a second language, and all of them have particular mandates from their department to carry out that responsibility. The amalgamation under the direction of one minister is not necessary. The fact of the matter is that there is a careful reporting amongst the ministries directly involved, and we believe a very well coordinated program is in place.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Premier. What we are told from people who are involved is that they cannot get answers because there is no coordination. I'll ask my second question to the Minister of Advanced Education. Projections are that during the time frame 1990 to 1995, 78,000 new immigrants have or will arrive in Alberta needing English as a second language training. What is the plan for meeting the needs of these very welcomed new Albertans? And who's in charge of that plan?
Mr. Speaker, we presently have some 24,000 adult Albertans in basic education in ESL full-time and about 75,000 in part-time programs. So it's to date a very successful program. I'd indicated earlier, Mr. Speaker, we have some concern about new Albertans coming in. There's a coordinating committee now that deals with this, including, by the way, my honorable colleague, the Minister of Education, because it's not just adult Albertans we're concerned about. The Minister for Career Development and Employment, Mr. Speaker, is the minister responsible for dealing, along with the Minister for Federal and Intergovernmental Affairs with Ottawa, on matters of immigration. I'm confident, Mr. Speaker, with the continued support of the many volunteers with ESL programs, as well as the number of dollars we commit, we're capable of handling the incoming people who require those services. There's no question, Mr. Speaker, and it'll be found in this year's estimates, that funds have been requested for additional spaces for ESL programs.
Okay. Might we revert to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly 3 classes of English as a second language students from the Alberta Vocational Centre, the Winifred Stewart campus in my riding. The teachers with these 3 groups are Georgia Ramos, Gratzina Walentinowicz, and Joan Porter. There are 41 students. I request that they were here today to watch some of question period anyway, and I request that they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Standing Order 40, I'm sorry, it's not a Standing Order 40. Privilege, Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I go into any detail related to this, I think it's important for members of the Assembly to be reminded of some basic rules which apply to parliamentary democracy. In fact, they're so basic. In a conversation with Parliamentary Council, we agreed that we were surprised that they exist because the assumption is so prevalent throughout parliamentary democracies. In any event, the best citation would be from Beauchesne's, and they would be 461 and 462, which I'll read out. 461 reads, "Officially, there is no list of members desiring to speak in debate. Any member who wishes to speak may rise and endeavor to catch the speaker's eye. The member who is seen first has the right to speak." Perhaps a little more to the point and a little more related to our own house is 462, which reads, "While the Speaker is the final authority on the order of speaking in the House, and on occasion has used independent judgment, the whips of the various parties assist the Chair by making available lists of members who wish to participate. The Speaker has traditionally been careful to ensure that an independent or dissident member is not overlooked. The mover and seconder of a motion are recognized first. In any parliament, there is also a general understanding, based on party membership in the House, of the expected order of speakers from the various parties. At all times, the Speaker tries to arrange for both sides of the question to be heard in reasonable rotation." Now, that basic rule governs us on a daily basis, Mr. Speaker, as you know, and it works. Now, last night in committee, and by the way, committee rules are the same as rules which apply to the Assembly of the whole, with the exceptions that are noted in our own individual standing orders, but these rules would apply. Now, last night we had an unusual situation arise. The Deputy Chairman of Committee of Supply was not in the chair. We had instead an acting chairman. Now, following the defeat of a motion to which the member for Ponoka-Rimby was the penultimate speaker prior to the vote, the chairman refused to give the floor to the only other member standing, the only member standing in his place. He went further. In fact, he actually called out orally for the member for Ponoka-Rimby to speak, but as the latter was not present, obviously he couldn't speak. Now, at this point, a number of us pointed out that he was not there and directed his attention to the member who was standing, who in this case was a member for Calgary Forest Lawn, who was